Johnny Rodman from Light in the Storm Disaster Relief. And the reason you're here is because of tragedy. And that is because late last year, Hurricane Helene struck Western Carolina. Well, it struck a whole lot more than Western Carolina. But the rain clouds kind of sat above the western part of North Carolina and didn't move and dumped a horrendous amount of rain. So we were geared up for it here in eastern Tennessee. We're not far away, and we were told the rain's going to be bad. But it wasn't, not really here, but just 2.5 or 3 hours away. It was calamitous. You are working in disaster relief to aid people in the wake of what's been going on there. And talk to you a little bit about the scale of what you've seen, the need that still exists, how people can get involved, and what you're dealing with. Tell me, Johnny, what you're doing through your ministry and how you got involved in what's happening there in Carolina.
Well, we went to Swannanoa, Asheville area October 4th. We've had several volunteers that we convoyed there. We went through Blue Ridge to avoid any stops.
Now, let me just jump in here. Is this typically what your ministry does, or are you involved in other things as well?
Well, our ministry is specifically for disaster relief.
Yeah, okay. So
and of course, we do preparation awareness and some training. Okay. But our big thing is serving in disasters,
right?
Being the hands and feet of Jesus for cleanup.
So this thing happened. You knew you had to be there to help.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I do want you to go on, but I want to ask this. Were there lots of people there helping initially?
Initially, yes, sir.
Okay.
There was a lot of confusion. The first 2 weeks, there was a lot of speculation. So our Facebook disappeared. There was a lot of communication errors. There was no cell phone signal, no internet, no nothing. So no one knew what was really happening there for 2 or 3 weeks. It wasn't until TikTok, we opened up a site of TikTok and put out videos of actual footage of disasters. That's when we started getting a huge outpouring of people.
Yeah. This is Swannanoa. This is what happened in Swannanoa. And to help us understand this a little better, tell me where Swannanoa is, one or the other of you.
Go ahead. Swannanoa is east of Asheville, between Black Mountain and Asheville. It's a small little town on the Swannanoa River. It's a pretty decent population. It's all working class. This is where all the lower working class lived. That was the only affordable place in the area to work in Asheville and then live.
Oh, got her.
So there was a huge homeless population there as well. And all these people were purely working class. So when they got hit, they had no insurance. They had no help. Their property values were really low because of their town they were in for taxes. They hadn't got reappraised. It was really, really traumatic because an entire town being wiped out from this flood, and they only had a 15-minute warning.
That's all they had?
Yes, sir.
15 minutes? Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so why? When rain comes, they tell you a week in advance that rain is coming. We already knew that Hurricane Helene was swarming around. How could it be that they only had 15 minutes of notice?
Well, I've got to explain the severity of this. So the 500-year flood that FEMA produces is the ultimate huge flood, devastating flood. This was 20 feet higher than that for the flood in Swannanoa. It was 20 feet higher than their 500-year predicted flood. So what happened is they were releasing water from the dam. The dam did not fail. The release gate broke off and fell. Oh. So they had 15 minutes. And we've had countless witnesses and countless people tell us they got a text message alert. They started gathering their stuff. They looked in their yards. They saw the water. One person had a car in the driveway that was a little bit downhill. That was already underwater, so they got the car that was closest to the road. Two elderly couples that were 69 years old. They made it, put it in their car, started it, made it 20 feet, and had to abandon their car, swim up to the church that was on high ground in the middle of downtown.
No, I understand the 15 minutes. And, I can imagine if that was me and I get an alert saying 15 minutes, I can imagine saying, I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could take 20. So what happened to those folks who didn't?
They didn't make it.
Just that simple?
Yeah.
Didn't make it. So you're going in there in terms of disaster relief with your ministry. You arrive and your first impression is what?
Worst I've ever seen. We've done 9 disasters. This is our 9th disaster. And saw F4 tornadoes. We saw the flooding in Kentucky, in East Kentucky. We saw a lot of horrific things, but this on a scale was so much larger than I've ever experienced. And we've talked to other ministries that had been around for Katrina and other disasters like that, and they expressed that this was bigger and greater than what they've seen in Katrina. That thousands of people were missing and displaced, that you can walk through anywhere and find stuff 5 miles down the road. It was so devastating that we were doing a trailer park that got flooded, and they lost two of the residences. We muck out, which means we go in, we shovel out all the mud, we strip all the sheetrock, and we strip all the flooring off, so that way they have a skeleton to rebuild, or else it would just be astronomical to build a new one. So we were there, and then we found another home. This was 3 weeks after the disaster. It had still furniture in it, had 14 inches of mud inside, 30 inches of sediment all the way around the house, and it was untouched. We kept finding months up, 4 weeks in, 5 weeks in, we were finding properties that were in the middle of town that was still untouched for needed help in clean out and recovery.
I don't mean to get political. Not every question involving politics is a political question. But aren't there agencies designed to take care of this stuff? Isn't the state or the federal government or someone supposed to swoop in?
Well, this being our disaster, FEMA and Red Cross has always been the number one staple in a disaster.
Sure.
And they put everything on the SAM registry, which they sub out everything. So everything's subcontract. And when we go to a disaster, we're there for the first 2-3 weeks. We're clean up, recovery, we move on because the government is already set up. They're taken care of. So reason why we're staying here, this is our 4th month going on, is because that lack of Red Cross and FEMA response.
So why the lack? Do you know?
I can tell you from experience that the amount of neglect that was happening to the Carolina people and the amount of confiscations from the government was so extreme that it's unreasonable.
Confiscations?
Yes, sir. So they were flagging. So when you go up to a pod or go up to a distribution site, when a declaration of emergency is stated, they have all rights to seize and confiscate all properties that is considered donations.
Okay.
So they would pull over or flag semi trucks that were loaded fully. They would mark them, have them escorted to a warehouse to unload, and then they leave. And if you had a manifest, you would be more likely to be targeted. And this was verified from the local law enforcement, codes, city officials, and I've witnessed it myself. They put a check on the back of the semi and have it hauled off.
So what you're doing is all voluntary and all for free.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
You're going in there, and I'm there with a house half full of mud and a future that now looks black. And you're cleaning out my house, stripping down the sheetrock because it's ruined anyway, and you're saying now you've got a frame to rebuild on, and you're good to go, or good to get going. This is what you're doing.
Yes, sir. So after we strip all the sheetrock, the flooring, the furniture, the mud, we actually spray it and treat it with the mold remediation spray.
Yes.
That stops it, and that's where the big rush is when we get in there, we clear the debris, we remove it, and so that way the families have a good foundation, because starter new homes cost anywhere from $89,000 to go and up for just the kits alone. So we try to give them a more affordable option. And actually, in Swannanoa, we decided to build one home. It's a little big for our ministry, and it's very, very expensive. But we're blessed to say we've mucked out 48 homes. We tore down 10 structures, including a SDA church. We took down a single wide, and we actually put a campground with 3 campers with all utility hookups there in Swannanoa for a widow and 2 other families. And in Swannanoa, we are helping a family of 8. They are Sabbath keepers. They are amazing, great couples. They have 5 children, and their mother-in-law lives there. And we are actually rebuilding it. And that's kind of where we love what we do. When we go and strip, we get them the option where a contractor came in and said there will be $350,000 to replicate the home that's tore down and rebuilt. We're going to have a full total of roughly $65,000 to $70,000 for a full, complete, furnished, rebuilt home for them. We've had a little over 680 volunteers in the time span served with our ministry. Volunteers.
680?
680, yes, sir.
Fantastic.
And all over the nation. And we've had 79-year-old ladies that would run circles around me. We've had elderly folks that say, hey, I don't want to do a lot of heavy lifting, so they would go and feed the volunteers.
Right.
Or they would go and just pray with the victims
Yes.
and minister to them, give them a glow track. We carry a lot of glow tracks on our trailers.
We say the same about It Is Written mission trips. You don't have to be a doctor or a nurse or whatever. Sometimes the most important people are the people who act as glue to hold it all together. They're the in-between people. Nothing happens without the in-between people.
That's right.
So if you can go there and be an in-between person. Johnny, what did you see that shocked you? What shocked you? You can take this from any angle. You went there and you said, oh my, that's surprising.
Well, this might seem a little weird, but what was the most shocking, besides the pure devastation and just all the eye can see of it, was the amount of Adventists that served with us in our ministry. Normally, it's about 1 or 2% of our volunteer pool is Adventist. We actually had 85 or 90% were Adventists from Carolina Conference, from all over the nation. We had a couple that canceled their Mount Rushmore trip from Ohio. They said, hey, I want to come. And I've got to tell you, it's not by chance where our government did not step up the way they should. The Lord protected that place because every single volunteer said, the Holy Spirit told me to come and serve in this area.
Wow.
And we've had agnostics, we've had atheists, we've had all them, and all of them that say the same thing. A power came over me and pulled me to go to this area and serve.
If people want to show up and help, how do they go about doing that?
Well, they can reach out. They can visit our website at lightinthestorm.org. We have our address, our phone number, and my phone is always on for anybody willing to help.
Lightinthestorm.org.
6 weeks into the disaster, there was a trash crew started tearing a house that was on a river bank. They found a family of 4 in there.
Wow.
That were no longer with us. The reason why they can't say this many people died is because they have to, number one, identify, and number two, notify next of kin.
Mm-hmm.
And if those people never get identified or notified, they will never become on the list.
Yeah. Yeah. What a tragedy.
The emergency services was stretched so thin that it would be impossible for them to even respond, not let alone get there.
Well, this is just unprecedented, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And okay, let me ask you this. So a couple of things strike me. The resilience of the people and the way others have stood up to help, given of themselves, shown up. But what kind of toll does it take on you? You're living this. You've been there for 4 months now, 4 months plus, both of you, and you're hearing those harrowing stories. The story you told us before is unbelievable. Doesn't this start to wear on you just a little bit after a while?
For me, it's I've been very blessed that the Lord has gave me the ability to handle trauma in very destructive and bad areas. And plus, I have my family support that I can talk to, my wife and kids.
Yeah.
And I get to go visit them. I'll go home for about a week and rewind and unwind. But honestly, I just give it all to the Lord. The first few disasters I've done were overwhelming. I felt like anything I do was not enough for disasters, but I've learned that the Lord is just giving me, He would never give me more than I can handle. And I just take it day by day. And when I'm finished, I could write down a list and I say, wow, I've really made a difference thanks to the Lord. And being a tool of the Lord, you don't really think about how much more you could do. You just think about what the Lord wants you to do the next day.
When does this end for you? Johnny, when does this end for Light in the Storm Disaster Relief Ministries? When can you say, okay, we're out of here?
Well, we put a line in the sand because we've got to ramp up for tornado season. We've got our final project, which is the Arellana family house. And we are raising money and rallying up to finish that home. And once they're in it, that's when we say we're done.
Johnny Rodman, Light in the Storm Disaster Relief Ministries. How do people find you, reach out to you, volunteer, come help? Give us that information again.
Okay. You can find us at lightinthestorm.org. You can call our cell phone number, 615-420-8148. We also have TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and all the major social media platforms. And I will answer any questions, and I would love to really get some more support. This last 2 weeks, we've had no volunteers, so it's only been me going there.
So you really need people.
Yes, and finances.
Yeah.
I'm volunteers, and actually everybody in our ministries volunteers. That's the people that do our YouTube videos. That's from the people that do our public relations. So we could really, really use the support to get this Arellana family back in their home.
Yeah.
I would like to share, I've got to say, I am so proud of the local area and the conference and Irwin Hills SDA Pastor Art. When we came there, that's what we do as part of our ministry is we set up a pod, which is a point of distribution.
Yes. And
we set something up that was a hybrid that I came up with that was inspired by another food bank, and it was called a rapid pod. Well, Pastor Art and his, they only had 12 active members at that church. Well, they said, hey, we want to be a pod. We want to help and serve the community. I think they served over 10,000 people.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And the resilience of Swannanoan people, they are the nicest people I've ever met. So just real quick, we were in the trailer park and we're going through, and there's about 80 trailers there, and 20 or 30 got flooded. They're sleeping in their car, and they come out, and we're sitting there, we're gutting out their house, and they'll set up a tent and plug up the only generator they've got with a mini fridge that was given to them and have waters for us and just continue to cater us. We've had several victims come hand in hand in the mud and serve and clean with us. That's been the most beautiful thing we've experienced, is how deserving these people are.
In the midst of a tragedy, God has seen, His Spirit is work, and God is using you both and your organizations. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Johnny Rodman for Light in the Storm Disaster Relief Ministries. Blessing to have you both.